Sup guys, and welcome back with some more Limbus Company, and today we are here with a special video. We're going to be checking out a video based on honglu source material. It's called I Read Honglu Source Material So You Could Enjoy Canto 8, featuring Frey Chikama? Hopefully I said your name right. But yeah, what I was going to say was, I've been waiting to check out this video. I've been really excited to check out this video. I just needed the time to record it. So first things first, I want to make sure that we give proper credit to Welvader over here. Subscribe to Welvader if you haven't already. I'll leave the link to this video in the description box below of this reaction over here. And I just want to get into this because, man, Limbus has been constantly just cooking with the story, bro. The last event that we just had, you know, gotta sweep over there. Yeah, that's, bro, peak. Like, even the 0.5 events are so good. So I know Canto 8 is gonna be insane, and I want to see what makes honglu tick. Because he puts up this mask, this facade that everybody, like, is, like, suspicious of. They're like, yeah, like, we know that something ain't right with you, especially with how much trauma is in your family. But, you know, you act like everything's fine. And everything is not fine, dude. It is not. So yeah, I'm gonna leave a like on this video. Leave a like on the video if you haven't already, and we're gonna check it out. It's been a hot minute since I've done a reaction on somebody else's freaking content over here, so this is gonna feel a little weird because it's been a while. But if there was a video that I wanted to check out first, it would be this one, most definitely. So let's get it. Minor content warning. This video briefly covers the depression. Well, the topic of depression, I thought it said the Great Depression, from, okay, 42 minutes and 53 seconds onward. So if you have any history with that topic, I just want to let you know ahead of time. There's your warning. Oh yeah, also I guess I horribly butcher Chinese names too, so discretion to your ears is also advice. Okay, I mean, hey, I can't read either, bro. We're in the same boat. It's all good. All right, let's get it.
Yes, you read the title of this video correctly. I read honglu source material so that I could be one of the 7 whole people in the community that could actually tolerate reading such a long book. I started reading Dream of the Red Chamber at around the start of Canto 6, and only a couple of weeks ago have I actually gotten around to finishing it. So
from the 28th of March to the 20th of February. Man, this is how long it'd be taking me to beat freaking games that aren't gachas at this point, bro. Like, Jesus, bro. It would be taking this damn long. Persona 3 Reload stares in pain.
Yes, that means
I think it's actually been over a year for Persona 3 Reload for me.
The better part of an entire year for me to finish. And I want to somehow put that knowledge of honglu source material to use in some capacity. And give you a retelling of the book along with some theories of, at the time of recording, the upcoming Canto 8. But
okay,
there's a good chance you are watching this
say hi to
after
G-Corp
as well. Dream of the Red Chamber is a stupendously long book, but also
sounds like it.
I need that watch time to be really high so I can actually feel gratified for putting this much effort into reading the 11th longest book ever made. And for information's sake, I read the version that is 2,500 pages long. And yes, this video is releasing right before Canto 8, and heck, if I'm lazy, this video may release during or after Canto 8. But that is an issue for editing Welvader to worry
about.
And
You're fine, man.
You're
good.
Doing a 2-parter of this, if there is enough
Bro said I hate you script recording
Where part 2
Welvader.
will go over what we know after Canto 8. But honestly, let's be real here for a sec. If you are an avid Welvader fan, then you and I both know that I am not known for my multiple part series. Anyway, I know that for some people the segment where I talk about the book is going to be ridiculously boring, and trust me, it is. But I do suggest sticking around for it. Because as much as I joke that I am one of the 7 people in the community who finish the book, there really may just be 7 people in the entire community that actually finish this book. You're probably not going to get a summary of the book anywhere else from the perspective of someone who has Project Moon brain rot. But if you want to completely disregard my desperate pleas to get you to watch the video for longer, then you can go to my theory crafting segment at this timestamp. Anyway, that is enough begging.
Nah, we ain't skipping.
So let's get to
We're here for the long haul over here, man.
I want to state that honglu source material is a bit controversial among Chinese readers. This is because the last 2 volumes of this 7-volume novel was not actually published by the original author, Jade Qilin, but instead a friend of Jade Qilin, or brother or printer. I don't know, truth be told, because at this point, Wu was
The reason why Volume 4 and 5 weren't made by the original author is because he unfortunately passed away midway through writing. Oh, many authors have taken it upon themselves to conclude the book but the one commonly agreed to be the sequel is the one written by Gao Yi. Okay, got you. Yeah, I was wondering why it wouldn't be finished by the original author, but okay.
Also Jade Qilin,
Now we know
who he is. Supposedly it was written by a person by the name of Gao Yi, but even that we're unsure of. All we know is that this person who wrote the last 40 pages of the book was in one way or another relevant to the original author. Now we'll be including the 40 pages he wrote because I'm pretty sure Project Moon will include them as well. I have proof for that even, but put a pin in that because it's relevant for later. The Dream of the Red Chamber doesn't actually start off with Honglu's family yet. Instead, it starts off thousands of years before the events of the book. Nuwa is a god of creation that is said to have made the humans as a whole. And in primordial times there was a crack in the sky that she was trying to fix in the story of the book. To fix this crack in the sky, she molded 36,501 stones. But in repairing so, left behind one stone. This stone had magical powers and actually had a consciousness inside of its own.
Of course the one stone, yeah, has the magical powers, Jesus. Could talk and has consciousness because it was created by Nuwa. Dreamt of one day becoming a crypto bro, Jesus. What type of timeline are we in?
Decided to go see the human world but couldn't, because well, it's a
desired to experience the mundane world.
Until a Buddhist monk and a Taoist priest came along. They found out that the stone had a consciousness and after a bit of chatting, granted the stone the offer to be reincarnated into a human so that it could experience human life. And this led to the stone eventually being reborn as Xia Baoyu, or as we know him, honglu. Immediately for some
so bro came from a stone?
Already obvious link to Limbus Company here. I mean, come on, a Buddhist and a Taoist with magical abilities to reincarnate a stone sounds like the blue boy band we all know and love. However, in Limbus Company, Honglu's grandmother, Grandma Xia, could also take this role of having Honglu experience the human world because of some of the dialogue we've heard in the game. This is how the story of the RTRC starts. And just so you know, the RTRC is a book that covers a heck of a lot of facets of the Xia family and their eventual decline. There's a reason this book is 2,500 pages long. Heck, this book has over 400 characters and 4...
Anyways, what my excellent manager is trying to say with this is that the book is so large that realistically Project Moon could use to cut anything from the story, so it's difficult to predict what Project Moon would do with the many side stories of it. That's crazy. You have that much freaking source material that it's unpredictable of what the hell is going to happen actually going into Canto 8. Jeez. So even, what you're saying is, even at the end of me learning all this information, I don't know what the hell is going to happen. It's not like some of the other stories of where you'd have more of an idea of what's going to happen, even though you're going to have your curveballs with, you know, your Limbus Company flair in there.
All of which are really plot relevant. So as much as I'd love to make this a 10-hour long video talking about everything there is to talk about,
and what does this say? No, I just happened to recall that I left the bacon on the kitchen counter at home. I should have left it covered with District 23's purple salt. Bro, what the hell? Bro said, my second oldest aunt used to sprinkle that salt all the time. Bruh. For example, even a barely plot-relevant details like Jiamin's husband, who in the book worked at a salt mine, could be referenced as adapted. Okay, I get it.
Keep it as content
I get the point you're making.
Obviously, I'll mention characters like Xia Huan and Jade Qilin, who we met in Limbus Company, but don't expect a review of every single character there is.
Okay. Disco Elysium. Never played that game.
Xia Baoyu was born with a jade in his mouth, which in Limbus Company is the Jade Eye. Xia Baoyu also had...
Bro, this video is going to be so long to react to because I keep pausing, but I mean, it's the point of a reaction, bro. I don't think that's the right... I don't think that's the right word for that, but I see what you were going for with the eyes, but I think that's a different word there, but, you know, you tried. It was an attempt. Definitely.
With women. As from a very young age, he would always prefer to hang out, talk, and be friends with women. Which, speaking of, there are a lot of women in the RTRC, because I'm pretty sure 80% of the book's cast is female. Also, for simplicity's sake, and so you don't lose the plot, I'll be referring to Xia Baoyu as Honglu for this video, as they are practically one and the same. And yes, there's also a reason why Project Moon changed his name. I'll talk about that later in the theory section, so put another darn pin in that. The first volume of the RTRC goes over the affluent and wealthy lifestyle of the Xia family and their two households, the Ninghua and the Ronghua house. Grandmother Xia runs these two households and is the main...
So a little less affluent version of Rongu, where a lot of the servants live. Rongu, most of the book takes place here, and is where Honglu is from.
The arc of the Xia family and really dotes on Honglu a lot throughout the book. In the book, basically whenever Honglu and her are together in the same scene, Honglu gets completely spoiled to bits and she will often take the side of Honglu in any kind of argument that comes up. But in Limbus Company that might not exactly be the same. Put another pin in that, please. Another few important characters are Xia Huan and Xia Xichun. Xia Huan is Honglu's half-brother in the book, but in Limbus Company they are simply brothers. Then there's also Xia Xichun.
Okay, so basically bro back over here be on demon time towards Honglu.
Another few important characters are Xia Huan and Xia Xichun. Xia Huan is
Yeah, very impulsive child, jealous of Honglu, directly or indirectly hurts Honglu multiple times, half-brother and born to their father's concubine. There we go. Words.
Brother in the book,
okay, so demon time sibling.
Brothers. Then there's also Xia Xichun, who lives.
Okay. We're on that Itachi timing. And then very talented painter almost ends up becoming a Buddhist nun and leaving at the end of the book, which actually gives way as to why she's the first sibling other than Jia Huan we meet.
In the Ningguo house. I'm going to try to keep this brief so it doesn't get too confusing, but some of the more relevant characters that have not been mentioned in Limbus Company are Wang Xifang, Xia Wanchun, Lili Wang, Xia Xiang, and especially two really important characters that eventually form a love
original character, do not steal,
Lin Yu and Xua Bao Chai. Wang Xifang is practically the one running the entire Xia family household.
Okay, administrates the entire household, jokes around, and is very clever, but is often really strict and rules with an iron fist. Okay. Hope you like my beautiful renditions of the family. Also, sorry for horribly butchering all these names, bro. I do the same thing. But yes, the art is beautiful, man. Truly. Thank you.
She's the one keeping everything in check about.
Great demonstration, too.
Xia Wanchun, who is Honglu's elder sister. And Lady Wan.
Jesus, bro. Yeah, no. See, this is why I keep pausing. I can't read quick enough, bro. We only 6 minutes in. Just yeah, boys, get your snacks. We gonna be here a while, but it's all good. For the love of the game, literally. One of the few characters named in game plays a massive role in Volume 1 where she becomes the consort to the Chinese Emperor. Okay.
Who's Honglu's elder sister, and Lady Wan and Xia Xiang.
Both parents are pretty cruel in their own respective ways. Lady Wang holds on to her authority and position with an iron grip. Jia Zhang often lambasts Honglu over his studies and is rarely there for him. Wow. Sounds like a great parent. The mustache is crazy.
Mother and father. And then we have Lin Yu and Xua Bao Chai. They are super relevant to the plot and basically form the three main characters of the book. Lin Yu is a woman who is described by the book as very intelligent.
Arrives at the Jia household after the death of her mother. Poet often sulks in her own emotions.
Witty and talented, but very fragile. She has an illness that makes her just very frail. Whereas Xua Bao Chai is a very beautiful, considerate and tactful woman. And what is important...
Okay. And what is it about her? I was trying to let him talk first before pausing. Carries around a golden locket with their ambitious, sometimes lacks emotions, but is well-mannered.
Very beautiful, considerate and tactful woman. And what is important about these two characters is that they are meant to complement each other. Where Xua Bao Chai lacks intelligence, Lin Yu makes up with her own. Where Lin Yu lacks in manners, Xua Bao Chai makes up for it.
Okay.
And this is extremely relevant to the thematic of double teaming. And as for this term, really keep it in mind because this is going to play a really important part later down in the theory section. Yu and Bao Chai together represent what is, according to the author of the book, the ideal woman. While both characters are flawed, together
two sides of the same coin, okay.
Contrast one another. Volume 1 goes over the basic lives of the Xia family household and when they are at their wealthiest, and this story is really as much about the entire family as it is about Honglu himself.
Okay, so setting the foundation.
And that is because this story covers a lot of different tales about this family. While we are told about Honglu's life in the first volume and how much he cherishes the girls in his family, and especially his three head mates, Maid Musk, Maid Skybright, and Maid Aroma,
nice.
It's equally about other characters.
He has like 7 more, but I really just want to focus on the ones that are most important to Honglu's development. Gotcha.
The most important plot point in the first volume is actually about Xia Wanchun. Wanchun is a character that is briefly mentioned as one of the most deadly sisters that Honglu and Xichun in the game have. But in the book she's an outstanding paradigm of virtue and intelligence, so much so that she ends up catching the attention of the Chinese Emperor and later becomes his consort. And this is what takes primary focus in Volume 1, as the entire Xia family household prepared for festivities for this event. And the celebrations of what this does for the Xia family's political power is a really big plot point in the first volume. And another really big plot point that is definitely worth mentioning is Honglu's exposure to the Land of Illusion. Yes, guys, it's the name of the ego. No way, I can't believe it. The ego's
Oh my god, it has a connection?
Sort of Wojak porn face here or something. In chapter 5 of the book, he meets a fairy by the name of Disenchantment. This is a fairy who he meets in the Land of Illusion after being lured into.
Bro. I'm trying to focus on the lore, and then he be putting dumb stuff like this. Oh my god. Bro said, honglu, you perchance ever heard of CBT, bro? No. Oh, you mean a cognitive behavior therapy? No, that's not what he meant, you poor soul.
Bits.
Closed beta test, obviously, is what he meant.
Around the bush here, but in the Land of Illusion, he gets educated on some pretty freaky activities, and Honglu, well, he happens to be a visual learner. In fact, he happens to be the guy who very much so learns by putting things into practice. So yeah, after that he is toured through heaven and shown the archive of every woman in China. He ends up learning a lot about women and the Land of Illusion, but right as he is kicked out of heaven by Disenchantment, we get some offhand heavy foreshadowing.
Okay, I was able to read that without pausing.
Since ancient times, many lusty men say it's a woman's beauty that inspired them to commit wanton crimes. They are just an excuse to cover up their deeds. And you are the most lustful person in the world. Change your thoughts on love. Devote your mind to Confucius and Mencius for the betterment of society. And not gonna lie, this line is low-key fire for like 18th century Chinese literature. Anyway, in case it isn't obvious, lust and love play a heavy role.
Bro got the Yakuza OST.
Story-wise, it is because the love triangle of Bao Chai, Dayu, and Honglu is very vaguely established, which...
While he yaps, enjoy some more fun facts. The volume on the Taoist and the priest come back a second time as doctors after someone in the family fell ill. They gave the person a mirror, which they told the person to only look on the backside of. This person eventually looked in the mirror, and when he did, their soul got sucked in forever. Bro got that Shang Tsung suck. And this event is sort of is the first starting piece for a lot of the bad fortune later in the book. Oh. Shoot, I ain't looking at no mirror anybody give me, what the hell?
The book after the celebrations, but also the thematics. A lot of the people who have read the OTRC in this community have talked about it openly, miss a lot of the finer details and symbolism in the book. Because for example, in Chinese, a jade represents lust, and guess what Honglu was born with? A jade. And also, Disenchantment is supposed to be a combination of both Bao Chai and Dayu. And really is one of the stepping stones for the love triangle of these three characters to get started in the first place. This love triangle is developed further in Volume 2 as Honglu and Dayu start to grow closer. And the game Honglu vaguely hints towards the central plot of this volume, as in this volume we really start to see Honglu and his friendly relationship with his sisters and maids as they flourish and start a poetry club. And the quirk of book Honglu is that he really loves poetry. It is probably his most well-defining feature, other than being really friendly towards women. This part of the novel is also a lot more about the maids of the family, who I have not mentioned so far. But maids in the Xia family are treated very well, in fact.
There are so many maids that it's hard to keep track of, but the most 5 important ones, Jesus. The book that got that many damn maids? Man, I should have read this book, what the hell?
The Xia family kind of prides itself on that. A few of the important maids are Maid Patience, Maid Musk, Maid Skybright, Maid Aroma,
Faithful.
Patience and
Faithful.
Respectively are the maids of Grandmother Xia and Wan Shifeng. Both of them are really capable on their own.
I completely messed up again. Faithful is the grandmother. Okay, his grandmother Jia's maid, and Patience is Jifeng's. Sorry, but this is just kind of happens when you're bad at remembering names in a book with 400 characters. Listen, mistakes are bound to happen. It's all good, my guy.
Right, and because they are two
it's all good, bro.
Most highly influential women in the family, they also have a lot of power themselves. And I want to bet that we are probably going to see them in Canto 8. As for Musk, Skybright and Aroma, they are maids to Bao Yu and often serve as an outlet for Honglu to vent his frustrations to. Musk being kinda considerate and often being the source of comfort to Honglu.
Okay.
Skybright being brash but very devoted and often is the one arguing.
Bro's out her nails for fashion, so she got some freaking claws.
And lastly is Aroma, also a very considerate maid that always worries about Honglu and looks after him. And even though the maids are side characters, they do inform a lot of Honglu's growth and his interactions with girls going forward.
So a slice of life it turns into?
Volume 3 is kind of where crap starts hitting the fan slowly but surely.
Okay.
And is where the downfall of the
I
Shah
was about to say that,
family
like, the downfall,
During this
basically.
volume, a lot of celebrations happen. For example, we have Grandmother Xia's 80th birthday, Honglu's birthday, Wang Qifeng's birthday happening, and of course, the Xia family, being rich and affluent, spent way too much money on their birthday. Especially for Grandmother Xia, who they celebrate 3 whole days for. Money starts to very slow.
3-day celebration is nasty work.
On top of that, Qifeng also falls ill this volume, and management is left in the hand of less competent.
So they have too many celebrations, waste their money, Blood falls ill because of it, too much partying, and then also has a miscarriage. Jesus, on top of that. Later on her birthday, her husband cheats on her, attempts to murder her, and breaks up with her within like the span of a week. What type of horrible, cursed black magic was thrown on you? Jesus. Yeah, I see where you said the downfall is.
People, and so mismanagement also starts to become a slight issue. It is otherwise really a well-mannered household. Even the Honglu Poetry Club starts to slowly fall apart because of girls growing up,
not
being
the Poetry Club,
or sometimes even outright dying. And Honglu in this volume has difficulties processing his feelings about change because a lot
just
of
throw the whole family away, bro. Just start over, new bloodline.
Drama also starts playing a big role, and in comes Jia Huan. Jia Huan, contrary to the game, is not a badass older brother, but rather he's the half-brother born to their father's concubine. Jia Huan is not often relevant in the book, but in the scenes he is in, he takes center stage. In the book, he's portrayed as always being really envious of Honglu, and that especially shows near the end of Volume 2, where jealousy and seeing Honglu get treated so well by the girls in the family, when he himself isn't, tries to scar Honglu by attempting to spill candle wax on his eyes.
What?
And this is 100%, without a second of a doubt.
Yeah, I wonder why they added him to the game. Jesus. Well, him and honglu are probably gonna throw some freaking hands in Canto 8, huh?
Going to be relevant in Limbus Company
What
going Honglu's eye. Just you wait. This results in not only a traumatizing experience for Honglu, but also the entire family basically
starts messing with his medicine,
as everyone is in a panic for the next few days. Because if
Bro's a
something were to
demon.
dare happen to Grandmother Xia's favorite grandchild, pretty much no one would survive. Thankfully he does recover, but Jia Hun's deeds do not end there, as in Volume 3 he ends up spreading that, oh dear god, I'm gonna need to really beat around the bush for this one again. Jia Hun spreads rumors to Xia Zheng, Honglu's dad, that Honglu did something bad to one of his mates, and that something is this fruit, except you remove the very first letter from the name of this fruit.
Okay.
And as a result,
Bro said something I can't mention because I can't pay taxes if I do. Jesus, bro. Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. So he was spreading lies. You, man, this is an elite hater right here. Bro gotta sit at the round table of Black Air Force One energy, bro. Like, y'all ever seen those videos? Jesus. Yeah, no, he needs to sit at that table because this dude's hating is crazy. You try to freaking blind your brother with some freaking candle wax. You freaking mess with his medication. And then you spread some horrible lies and tell his dad those horrible lies. Wow. Accusations.
Honglu is
False accusations.
To death by Xia Zheng, and the entire family erupts into chaos.
And he almost got killed because of it.
Man, Chinese literature back in the 18th century was crazy. And if all that wasn't enough to show
Elite
that
hater.
the family significantly hurting Honglu and his mental health, one of his mates, Musk, dies from an illness. And this leaves Honglu very melancholic for the next few days, as Musk was one of the very few people who have defined Honglu's character so far. And now it's like a part of him is completely gone.
Bro, what drives somebody to write something like this? I mean, given this book is hella
Volume
old.
4 and 5, I want to combine the two, as they are both written by a different author. But also because this kind of falls under the umbrella of the It's So Over arc. This volume is where the financial woes of the Xia family really gets obvious and more illnesses start to happen, which cause the family to basically become dysfunctional. And unfortunately, Maid Skybright also falls victim to this. Skybright, among the maids, at least described by the book, was one of the maids that looked the absolute prettiest. And this, because everyone is on constant edge, and also because there were rumors spreading around of her having an affair with Honglu, causes the maids to become jealous of her and saying that her beauty is giving her an unfair advantage. Nearly all the other maids conspire to have her kicked out of the household, which does eventually happen. And during all this, Honglu can't get over letting Skybright and their friendship go like that. To the point where he visits her hometown mostly on his own to go help her.
Editor's note, he does go with the help of a servant who shortly after goes home, after Honglu spends nearly the entire day at Skybright's hometown. Okay.
Upon learning that she's fallen ill. Unfortunately for Honglu, despite how much he looks after Skybright, it looks like her illness won't get any better. And Skybright, probably knowing her fate already, imparts Honglu with a memorabilia. You see, back in ancient China, it was a custom for some to grow out their nails as a sort of fashion statement. And Skybright did exactly this. For years she had been growing out the nails from her pinky and ring finger, and since she knew she didn't have much time left on this earth, she gave them to Honglu. This catches Honglu by surprise and worries him more than it does her. But he eventually accepts it, and after Skybright argues for Honglu to go home, he eventually left. And Skybright would unfortunately pass away the very next day at night. Honglu and Skybright actually had such a close connection to the point where he quite literally feels her death and screams out in the middle of the night, lamenting her, with news of her passing only coming to the rest of the family the day later. And the suffering does not end there, as Honglu actually ends up losing the Jade that he carries around with him in Volume 4. And for lack of a better word, he basically contracts stage 5 terminal brain rot. Through some weird magical force, basically all of Honglu's motor functionality as a human being ceases to exist the longer he's away from the Jade. He can barely even feel emotions anymore. He's always zoning out, and after...
Yeah, this went downhill. This guy's so bad, bro. What the? A small little fun fact: Honglu in the book has always hated the Jade he was born with. In fact, he tries to get rid of it multiple times by throwing it away or shattering it to pieces throughout the book.
For a few days,
and when this thing just makes its way back to him,
the name of people and talk, as a robot needs to do a lot of the talking for him, because he himself now literally has the literary understanding of the average Moon fan. The family, of course, goes into complete meltdown. The Jade was given a lot of sentimental value by the family and especially grandmother Xia. And once word has spread throughout the entire family, everyone didn't know what to do next. They tried to look for if someone had stolen it, if it's been sold on the flea market, or tried to search for a replacement, but nothing worked. And as Honglu's mental health deteriorated, the heads of the family believe it was because bad karma was causing this, and that the only way to heal Honglu was to bring him good karma. The family eventually came to only one conclusion. Honglu was to marry Zhe Baochai to heal him. You see, Zhe Baochai always carried a golden locket with her, which was given to her by a Buddhist monk during the
this marriage will save our bloodline and our luck.
Matches with the inscription of Honglu's Jade. This led the family to believe that possibly if they were to marry, it would cause good luck.
Ah yes,
After
combination.
All, the marriage of Jade and gold has a nice ring to it. One issue remains, however, and that is that Honglu loves Lin Daiyu, not Xiao Baochai, and he would never agree to marry anyone other than Lin Daiyu. Because over the course of the book, their love has started to flourish into new heights, to the point where in a part of the book, they repeatedly spent days with each other, and no one else. That is when Shifeng hatched a plan. Honglu, in the state that he is, could barely even think and know the names of people. So what if they just tricked Honglu into believing he was marrying Ling Daiyu? The family was hesitant to pull off this disgustingly mean deception, but at this point, they had no other chance to
gaslight of death,
as his mental state only worsened.
That's what we doing?
Lin Daiyu eventually catches wind of this, and the illness she already had since birth became immediately worse from the heartache she felt. She even started seeing visions of that the family no longer saw her as needed, and even a vision of Honglu ripping out his heart and giving it to Daiyu in a show of love.
Jesus. Another fun fact later, Honglu confirms this happened in a weird, sort of spiritual way as he says that I have already given Daiyu my heart. later in the book.
And from all this heartbreak, this drove her even more mad and sickly, all the while Bao Chai and Honglu's marriage was slowly approaching. Bao Chai was not happy with this either. While Honglu was a close friend to hers, he was exactly the opposite of what she desired from a romantic partner. She could never see herself be happy with him in an arranged marriage like this. Not to mention that both the Bao Chai and Lin Da Yu,
it wasn't anything Honglu was like that she was looking for.
Honglu in a matter like this. While Lin Da Yu couldn't do anything because she was sick, Bao Chai couldn't do anything because she felt like she had no power to reject
this whole situation is just fried.
Came closer and closer as Da Yu's health only worsened.
Oh,
she
man.
sat in her own bed, sick. All the while her friend filled in for her at her own marriage with the love of her life. Honglu, meanwhile, was none the wiser. Everything went according to Shifang's plan. Even as Bao Chai's veil almost fell off when she was bowing, Honglu quickly grabbed it so it wouldn't fall and reveal her face. The heads of the family were constantly anxious as the vow of the marriage would come up. Bao Chai would, one way or another, have to eventually unveil herself.
Jesus, bro. That sound was scaring me for a second, bro. Chat. I didn't know if it was coming outside or from the freaking video. My heart, I kid you, I'm not even joking. My heart was dropping for a sec. I was like, what the I'm like, is something happening? I'm like, is this it? Are we out of here? Bro, these headphones were working too well, bro. I didn't like that. Bro, this video is so cursed that it had me questioning reality for a second, bro.
Honglu quickly grabbed it so it wouldn't fall. I did not
like that.
The heads of the family were constantly anxious as the vow of the marriage would come up. Bao Chai would, one way or another, have to eventually unveil herself. And once she did...
Bro was molding. Bro started molding. Crash out.
Honglu immediately recognized that it was not Da Yu crying tears of joy in front of him, but instead Bao Chai's dejected and sad tears. And meanwhile, Lin Da Yu was all alone in her bedroom while everyone was at their marriage.
Getting tricked to be in a marriage is some crazy work just to find out it's somebody that you don't even love in the first place and they're crying. And then just to find out that the person that you love the most is actually freaking rotting away in a bed. Yeah, that's a... No wonder. I would have crashed out too. Yeah, I would have distorted.
Would unfortunately pass away from sheer heartache. Not being able to marry the one person she loved, and all while Honglu was deceived into marrying someone else.
Yeah, that's terrible.
The next morning he locked himself up in his room and demanded to know where the real Lin Da Yu was. The maids couldn't tell him as they got direct orders from grandmother Jia to not tell Honglu, but the news was unfortunately one way or another leaked to him eventually, and he learned of Lin Da Yu's death. And just imagine for a second what Honglu must have thought at this point. He had spent his entire life with his family, had so many great experiences, and he had seen the people who he had these great experiences with leave, be married off, or die due to illnesses. He'd so many people taken away from him already, and now the one person that meant the world to him had also passed away.
Peter Parker got some competition, bro. Jeez. Want to talk about a freaking tragic character, bro. Yeah, you heard that, man? Freaking Pete got some competition over here. Cause Lord. Yeah. You loved your family, then you got gaslit by your family. Then people that you cared about started dying. Your family gaslights you to go into this marriage you didn't want to go into in the first place. Then you have a freaking sibling that was trying to freaking kill you and just lie to people about you, the things that you never even did. You're losing your sense of reality is cooked already. So that's why they were able to gaslight you in the first place. It's all bad. This is horrible. This is genuinely like just garbage.
What kind of word could even begin to describe the tremendous sadness that Honglu must have felt?
Surprise, bro's still standing.
Honglu fell into a depression that would persist with him until the end of the book, knowing that he and Da Yu are now separated by life and death. He would even attempt to prematurely perish to meet Dayu in heaven. But as he tried so, he got a vision of him being on the Nether Road, with two guardians in front of the gates of hell, telling him that if he prematurely tried to go to heaven, that he would only go to hell, and that he must become a monk and let go of his earthly desires if he wishes to ever have a chance to meet Dayu again in the land of illusion one day. Honglu even starts to hear the voice of Lin Dayu as he starts to have visions and becomes disillusioned with the world, blowing on the dandelion as he hears Dayu's words and speaks with her, mentioning that she has turned into a flower fairy in her new reincarnation, and saying that she has repaid her debt of tears, but how could he ever repay the debt that he owes her? And yes, this is the bit I was referring to way back when in my proof of how Volume 4 and 5 are canon to Limbus Company, as we see art that resembles the same scene in the TG estimator for the game. The life of the household continues to crumble as they get into trouble with the law for mismanaging funds, and the Imperial Consort, Jade Qilin, dies as well alongside grandmother Jade shortly after. They steadily lose all the last remaining prestige and power that the family once had throughout the rest of Volume 5.
Other notable events in Volume 5 are the Jia family getting robbed by robbers organized by their own family members. You can't trust nobody. A government raid on the family household for breaking the law, and the family having trouble bailing family members out of jail. This whole family, like I said, throw the whole family away, bro. Just toss them all. Start new, because this is just... There's no saving y'all, bro. There's no saving. Like, there's literally, like, you're done. You're fried.
Being swiftly crushed, that being the honglu. You see, at the time the Imperial examinations were to happen, and a lot of people across China were tested on their knowledge. This, if Honglu did very well on the test, could bring honor and prestige back to the family. And Honglu did end up doing well as he came to 7th place. However, he never returned to his family. From here, all the remaining power of the family is slowly drained as the family almost fully collapses. And weeks, maybe even months, maybe even a year later, Honglu's father, Jade Qilin, was sent out of town on a business trip. And in the middle of the night, Honglu would come to him alongside the monk and the priest from the very beginning of the book. Honglu would wordlessly kneel and bow before his father, as the monk and the priest told him that his earthly karma is complete. Jade Qilin could not chase after Honglu, as the three of them slowly started to take off as a song could be heard by one of them, which is actually a reference to the name of Honglu's weapon, which has a very similar name to some of the lyrics in the song.
Bro, got some Digimon OST.
Well, anyway, now that we're done with that, how the heck does this tell us anything about the game Honglu? Well, I'll tell you what this definitely tells you, however. To subscribe if you're enjoying the video, of course. Like, please actually do. This book took me almost an entire year to read, so it would be really appreciated if you could show me some support. Or heck, if you want, you can even become a member of the channel to help fund the channel and help improve my videos in the future. And help me afford the next book I'll read. Ryo's source material, Hellscream. But anyway, back to what I think this already says about Honglu. And I think the best place to start off with is where Honglu starts off at, when he joins Limbus Company. If you happen to have read Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte,
I didn't read it.
For example, Heathcliff's departure and eventual return, midway through the book, coincides with when Heathcliff returns to his home in Canto 6. And so, knowing this, the most likely answer you're thinking of in your head is that Honglu joined Limbus Company after book Honglu left with a Taoist and a Buddhist, right? Well, it turns out that question can both be yes and no, actually. Yeah, hey, editing Melvader here. Turns out that this point I'm making is completely goddamn wrong. You see, originally I was going to have a whole talk about how Honglu could both be from the ending of the book and the start of the book, because the way he acts near the end of the book is similar to how he acts in game. And also that the motivations for him joining Limbus Company is similar to the motivations that Honglu as a stone had for becoming human. But turns out in Nocturnal Sweeping it's revealed that it's neither of those, and we are dealing with the Honglu that is on the way to the national examination in the book. Or as we know it, the family hierarchical evaluation. Police blame Melvader from a week ago for thinking that Nocturnal Sweeping wouldn't screw over the video editing.
Bro was on a, Jesus, almost 600 hours and started that.
Go f*** yourself. Why did you write a script 1 week before the important event? How stupid are you? Anyway, Nocturnal Sleeping surprisingly doesn't screw over the video too much. This is the only section along with one other in the next few minutes that I have to change. And surprisingly enough, a lot of the information in Nocturnal Sleeping actually reinforces the theories that I had cooking up. For once, the Limbus Company Content Creator Curse didn't screw one of us over. Which is honestly a first in the history of the YouTube side of Limbus Company. Anyway, Nocturnal Sweeping did introduce a lot of new characters, and I want to talk about some of those some way later, because fun fact, they actually only confirm what I have written in the rest of the script. In case you're wondering, none of these characters are actually from the book, funny enough. And in fact, Project Moon takes a heck of a lot of creative liberties with the story.
Bro said he hates to freaking say it, but Ricardo doesn't make an appearance in Honglu's book. Oh, but bro, who would have thought? Who would have thought? Damn. I was really hoping to brush up on my Ricardo lore. You know, I wanted to learn about Honglu dealing with some hair coupons, but you know, it is what it is, I guess.
For example, Honglu's grandfather that he mentions occasionally is not actually present in the...
And in a world perceived by their own shall be unveiled to their egos melt into by of sin. Huh? They're starting to talk a bit like my grandfather. Huh? Manager your head. Huh.
Book and is dead before the events of the Jia family. Anyway, that's all I wanted to add. Back to me from the past.
It's got to be a difficult thing trying to make these type of videos when new content is about to drop.
Throughout the entire story, and also from the offhand mentions of Jade Qilin, we learned that the Jia family household is actually really brutal, and that all the siblings in the household seem to constantly fight. And we don't mean the classic case of siblings getting upset over the others getting more time on the Xbox.
Mentions how...
No, we mean literal fights to the death.
Speaking demonic his siblings are.
Wei is not even supposed to exist, like I said before. Does Bro think he's part of the team? The only possible explanation I could give as to Wei's existence is that this is a classic case of Project Moon gender bending, like what happened to Josephine, who originally was an old butler called Joseph in Wuthering Heights. Like so much change that Canto 6 and 7 look like a joke compared to how far Canto 8 already is from its own source material. Because at least for the earlier Cantos there is a vague resemblance, but here the entire script has been completely flipped on its head and twisted around a good 6 or 7 times.
I didn't know that the community hated Canto 6 and 7 for being so different
than
the books.
And especially why is Jade Qilin looking for the river that could grant immortality of the mind? And what does that have to do?
I can't tell you in greater detail, but I can see them. I can see your ancient traces here. Come on, this is important to you too. If we want to survive as heirs, we have to find that thing that our elders seek, that immortality. She stops herself mid-sentence. I see, so this is where we have to go our separate ways.
With surviving as heirs. You know how financial troubles are a big cause of the downfall of the Jade family and a big aspect of the story that drives it forward in the book? Well, both Honglu and Jade Qilin completely deny being in on the La Mancha Land job for the money. In fact, we never get any kind of mention of Honglu's family ever having monetary problems. And actually, Honglu leads us to believe he can easily afford to pay off Limbus Company debt in the time-killing time event. And all this may lead you to believe that,
money's not a problem
for the Jade family household downfall. However, we could confirm that if it wasn't for a single goddamn line written in the observation logs by Honglu.
I've seen how lack of money causes misfortune for many people. I've also learned what kind of tragedy a lack of time could bring. Doesn't that mean that Mr. Time Ripper didn't do anything wrong, though?
Saying how he knows he has seen what kind of misfortune the lack of money can cause people. Am I reading into this line in particular way too much? Probably. Because let's be real, Honglu has probably seen a homeless person at some point in his life. At least I hope so. And frankly, we aren't working with much information to begin with. Honglu is a sinner that talks the second least out of any of the sinners, only being beat out by Ryoshu. And that doesn't change unless Nocturnal Sweeping is going to significantly change that, which it probably will, and editing Vader will proceed to repeatedly
spoiler alert, Honglu barely says anything noteworthy in Nocturnal Sweeping.
Slam his head into the desk if it will. However, there is still one bit of information that we can work with, and actually ties all of these very loose threads together, and is probably a massive hint towards what's going to happen in Canto 8. And that is this single tweet from Project Moon before the game released, in which they mention a color fixer by the name of the Jade Qilin.
Okay, let me see this. Hey, did you call? Who is the strongest? Of course, the one in front of me. No, in the city, who is the strongest fixer? Unlike in the past, this isn't a consensus. Some say it's the fixer of the Great Lakes, some say it's Hagen. Eugen something else, Artos, Jade Qilin, and some even say it's that bastard Ronaldo. There are a lot of good candidates. I haven't met most of them. There's only a lot of rumors. But there are still tavern brawls on this subject, and if you include the other associations and wings, this list is endless. It was like that during my time too. My reputation was overblown. Was it? Based on what I've seen, there was no exaggerations. I better ask differently. Who do you think is the most dangerous? My vote is the fixer Virgilius. Then they probably got a color. Yes, they even got your color. Anyway, I thought you didn't care for such ranking. I became a bit curious now that I have a more distant perspective of the city.
Yes, you won't be surprised at one of the more potentially bigger hints towards Canto 8.
Ah, interesting. Gabura and Roland. Huh. Shout out to my guy Roland.
A potential color fixer in a tweet from years ago before Limbus Company were released. But that just goes to show how dedicated I am to my husband honglu. Hey, by the way, did you know I'm a honglu fan? Well, now you know.
Really?
You may be wondering how this color fixer is relevant and who exactly he is. As for how it's relevant, well, if you happen to completely skip to the theory part of the video and completely disregard the book summary, first of all, shame on you and you should probably go watch that. And second of all, it would be pretty obvious why Jade are central focus of honglu's story. And who is he exactly? Well, you will be surprised to learn that we don't even have a clue to who he is. This is literally coming from a Twitter post from years ago. What the heck did you expect? However, what I can tell you about is the definition of the word Qilin.
Hades 2 OSTs?
Qilin is
game ain't even dropped yet.
It's a mythology that resembles an animal that has the body of a deer and the tail of an ox, and a single horn on its forehead, and having a yellow belly and a multicolored back. This creature typically coincides with the birth or death of a ruler, as in the most famous story it is associated with, a Qilin appears to the pregnant mother of Confucius and carved off a jade tablet that foretold the future greatness of her unborn child. Another interesting fact is that the word Qilin in Chinese is made up of the words Qi and Lin, which stands for male and female respectively. I found this noteworthy to mention because it adds to the fake undertone of double teaming that occurs throughout the story, and I'll be mentioning this again later. And hey, it's me, Editing Wellvader again, to give you a little amendment to the script. You know how the story of the Qilin is related to Confucius? Well, it turns out that the script I wrote a week before the Nocturnal Sweeping actually came very close to predicting who we would meet in the event. Because it turns out that Jade Qilin is Confucius. You see, while we don't know much about Qilin, what we do know is that he shares a first name with Confucius himself, that being Qilin. Now, why do you think Project Moon would add Confucius but f***ed up an evil into their game? Surely it is not to just have some silly references to great figures in Chinese history. I mean, they very well could, but personally I think that the addition of Qilin is very deliberate because of his connections to the Qilin. I don't think anyone quite understands how massive of a hint Jade Qilin's addition to the game is.
Okay.
And if the Jade Qilin does happen to be relevant in Canto 8, call
the
me
Wellvader blessing.
My mental clarity and wisdom could predict the future. Anyway, how does this add to our understanding of this hypothetical color fixer? Not much, honestly. All we know is that in his or her name, there's the reoccurring thematic of double teaming, which I think is very deliberate on Project Moon's behalf. However, we can infer what the Jade Qilin may mean to the family. You see, I think that the Jade Qilin could not only be a central plot point in Canto 8, but also the reason for why honglu and his siblings fight, why Xing Chun was looking for the river that could grant immortality of the mind, and what causes the eventual downfall of the Xia family. Now we need to start with
okay, so yeah, the Jade's definitely gonna play a big point.
And that's understanding why the Xia siblings fight each other in the first place. For fun? But honestly, knowing the city, that could very well be the case.
The city would do that, yeah.
There has to be a reason why a rich and affluent family would make their own descendants fight to the death. Like, wouldn't the royal family want as many children as possible to increase their
logically, you would think so. That's how it typically works with rich families. You want the bloodline to be as big as possible, to prosper. Yeah, but this is kind of like the opposite. You know, people at each other's freaking throats. Y'all have all this freaking money, and everybody's just on demon timing, basically.
On for as long as possible. And you'd be right in assuming that, but that still doesn't answer the central question here. Why are they incentivized to fight and take out their other siblings? Personally, I think that is because someone needs to take up the role as the new Jade Qilin. Because why else would the Xia family have a constant anime tournament arc going on in their household? And that is not the only reason I believe this, because from what Jade Qilin says, we can also...
The River of Oblivion, also known as Lethe, drinking the waters of this river allows one to bury their memories beyond the veil of their consciousness to the point of where they become uncertain, hazy, and dim like the memories from a dream. So that's what you've been looking for. Not exactly, it's a different stream somewhere near the River of Oblivion.
So from now what she and the rest are possibly after also has to do with this. Because think about it, why would Jade Qilin and the other siblings be looking for something that could grant immortality? Perhaps it could be because the current prized duo of the Xia family, the Jade Qilin, is growing older and needs to be replaced. And if they could somehow make his mental health never deteriorate, they could possibly have a near immortal color fixer permanently under the family name.
That would be wild. Never dying.
That is what leads me to believe that the reason why honglu and the siblings fight and why they're looking for the river.
The constant family and fighting, the search for immortality of the mind, the eventual Jia family downfall will all be because of Jade falling off. Okay. It's gonna be crazy to see this freaking downfall.
That could give him mortality
in
of the
game.
Mind. It's because the Xia family's prized champion, the Jade Qilin, is low-key falling off. Unfortunately, the goat of the Xia family has become completely washed, and it is likely that a family as influential and powerful as theirs is using the Jade Qilin as a symbol of their prestige, much like how in the book Honglu's Jade was a symbol of the family's prestige. And we may very well see the death of a color fixer and someone having to step up to take their place.
On a side note, this song is really
power
freaking soothing.
Well, we're
Anyways.
probably not going to see them actually fall in battle, we're probably going to see them in their deathbed. But hey, it makes it sound more interesting. And now that that is out of the way, there's one really large question remaining.
Okay.
Now that we know what the book means to Canto 8 and what the hints of Canto 8 mean for the plot, what does the plot of Canto 8 mean for honglu? Probably absolute misery, actually. There's a reason why the #1 funniest joke surrounding honglu is that this happy little fella is going to have the most depressing Canto out of all of them. And I don't really think I could convey just how sad Canto 8 may be. And while my skills lie within theories, I think that talking about the sinner's stories and their emotional weight behind it lies a lot more with someone else. And that is why I want to introduce you to someone who you may know for the excellent deep dive into the sinners and their unconditional love for Moses from the hit web series Distortion Detective, Frey Chikama.
Aw, thanks, well, you know just how much I love to ruin someone's day. The Fumo told me that I should yap about myself and do some kind of introduction, so why not? Well, let's see. I'm Frey, and much like Vader, I also dabble in some Project Moon shit. I can swear on here, right? Yeah, whatever. But I also moonlight in putting some terrible ideas in people's heads for the world to see.
Did I say the Gregnancy run? Excuse me?
But I also moonlight in putting some...
Excuse me? Can you beat Refraction Railway 4 if Gregor is pregnant? Oh boy. Of course you can! Come on. Obviously. Come on.
Some terrible ideas.
I was gonna do a whole bit.
To
Listen,
see.
we ain't got time for that right now.
Do some hear me out theories or a challenge that just might make you want to vomit with glee. You know where to find me. But seriously, it's like 3 a.m. Welv's worked on this for about a year. Subscribe to the guy. Seriously, he didn't ask me to tell you this. I'm telling you this now. Fuck it. He put in the work. This is huge as an essayist that cares about accuracy and emotional integrity. Dear God, man, the dude's earned it. Anyway, he didn't bring me on here just to shill. As Vader said, yeah, you may definitely know me for my videos about the other sinners and my other theories. And the topic of honglu is one I think has eluded a lot of people in this community. Not because there's nothing going on inside of his noggin, if anything I'm sure his head's a damn close to bursting, but as Welvy said, the honglu in the book contains multitudes that are harder to peel than either an onion or a blood fiend. And that's exactly why I'm here. As said before, Honglu in the book is a ridiculously tragic character. Those he considers dear friends constantly leave him, the maids he trusts either die of illness or are sent off because of the family fallout, and on top of that, he was forced into an unhappy marriage where he was catfished into marrying Xue Baochai instead of Lin Daiyu, only to learn the real deal caught a terminal case of lovesickness. And oh boy, if Project Moon somehow manages to cram all that pain and suffering into the story on top of what we already know about Honglu's family, then baby, there's gonna be a body count on this emotional roller coaster. And
Oh, there
the
definitely
wheels
is.
may already be in motion, because Honglu, from the very little he shared with us, has some really bad undertones. Take, for example, his ID uptie stories. If you look through them, in almost every single one, there's an overarching concept that ties them all together. And that concept is nihilism. And look, I know that's a dog whistle to the clown fans in the audience, but we're talking about the very definition of nihilism itself, the rejection of all religious and moral principles, and the belief that life is meaningless, which...
What's crazy, I literally had a conversation with one of my very good friends about this the other day. I'm not gonna put their business out there and say who it is, but they essentially this represents them very well. Because I wasn't too familiar with the word. So yeah, that's actually pretty crazy that this is coming up right now.
Based. And you especially have to keep the last part in mind, as meaninglessness is a big thing that ties all of Honglu's identities together. For example, we have identities like K-Corp Honglu, W-Corp Honglu, and Fang Hunt Office Honglu, where this meaninglessness is really obvious. In K-Corp and W-Corp, we see Honglu living a steady life at a wing, but that's really all they do. They live life at a wing. Both of these identities express that they got their job through family connections and don't seem to be happy or sad with it. K-Corp Honglu says that his grandmother got him the job and that he, frankly, does not care what his grandmother thinks.
It's
And
just
in
whatever
W-Corp,
to them.
We see him meaninglessly go along with the job and just act like he's drifting to the whims of his family, as we can see in the uptie story. Now, with identities like Fang Hunt Office, the meaninglessness takes on a little bit of a different flavor. Instead of seeing no meaning in his job, he instead sees no meaning in the lives he takes as he brutally takes them out one after another. And as the last of the Blood Fiends plead with him to spare their lives, his only retort is that they're a blood fiend. What other reason does he need to take their life? And it's not just in these
Jeez.
three. In every
Blood fiend
single
discrimination.
uptie story, meaninglessness
new?
plays some sort of role. Whether it's Honglu's motivator like with Fang Hunt, a result of his actions as we can see in the Diechi Association Honglu, and him using up his knowledge and not caring about it, or even something as small as simply not addressing his superiors by their appropriate title like in the Kurokumo identity. Meaninglessness plays a constant role in Honglu's story. And it really makes you wonder, why even is Honglu so disconnected with reality in the first place? Why is it that Honglu will not only time and time again make incredibly awkward and out-of-nowhere statements?
I didn't know how energizing work songs could be. Huh? How do you guys have so much energy left? This is not even a warm-up compared to the training my family forced me to do. Bro said, "Arch, you lot, shut your gobs and pedal."
Statements about his family in the earlier cantos, but also really dark and disturbing hints towards how he views life in the
Because the realization of meaningless extinguishes the reason for the spark to start a fire. The realization of meaningless extinguishes the reason for the spark to start a fire. That's really depressing. Jesus, dude. That is a really, sad way to look at life right there. I'm gonna read it one more time. Because the realization of meaningless extinguishes the reason for the spark to start a fire. So it's like, hey, I know it doesn't matter in the first place, so why even bother doing anything? Jeez.
the more recent cantos and intervalos. Why is it, for example, during Time Killing Time, Honglu is the one to step up to the Time Ripper and simply accept whatever happens, even if he could end up failing? Why does Honglu blatantly say in Canto 7 that if death comes for him, that he'll simply accept it? why does he share that if siblings in his household survive up until the age of 13, that they will be A-okay in the outskirts all by themselves? That sure is a whack-ass inside joke for a family to have. And when
Yeah.
you look at some of these moments and just try to read a bit in between the lines, does this not read as someone who is actually very deeply troubled? Even Book Honglu didn't say lines like this or openly shared these kinds of disturbing comments.
We should hurry. I bet Area 2 is just as bad. It's not, if not worse, than Area 1. If something bad were to happen to your sister in front of your eyes, then I will gather her remains and lay her in the final resting place when I return home, whenever that may be. Zichun would have done the same for me. Jesus. Bro's like, hey, I already know what I'm gonna do. It is what it is.
Just like the kind of cope, and just like the comments you'd find in Welvader's Soup Claire video. Got him! You don't have to keep that in. Stupid.
Jesus.
And while the egos aren't nearly as relevant to Honglu's character, there is one exception that tells us more than any other story could in a single glance. That ego being Land of Illusion. Land of Illusion is one of the very few times we actually get a proper insight into Honglu's mental space. And while many people often mistake the ego for Honglu's usual self, if you take a second to look at Honglu's expression, he looks like he's on the verge of tears. And that's quite an interesting design choice by Project Moon, because usually the ego animation goes by quite fast, and especially the expression is hard to catch because it's so small. But almost intentionally, as if it's a sort of thinly veiled disguise, we can see that this is the only time in the game where we can see Honglu genuinely sad and miserable. And why wouldn't he be? Anyone would be, knowing what he went through or what he most certainly will go through in Kanto 8. Not to mention that on top of everything that's come up so far, he's likely either already lost the love of his life or is going to in Kanto 8.
Oh yeah,
And
no,
while Book
for
Honglu
sure.
tried to get rid of his earthly
For
desires
sure.
to one day
He
meet
is going
Lin
to suffer.
Dayu again, what we see of the Honglu we know is someone going through life without a purpose, putting up a thinly veiled visage and occasionally allowing it to break. And those moments where he completely breaks character, while presented as a joke because of how disillusioned he presents himself as coming from a rich background, I don't know about you, but to me, these sound like a desperate call for help.
Yeah.
Behavior like this is often found in people who no longer find themselves with a will to keep putting up with life anymore. People who, in all of their time sinking deeper and deeper into a pit of emotions, can only but just barely muster the energy to joke about their condition in the hopes that it'll one day get better. And let's just call it what it is. Honglu suffers from severe depression, and that's different. In Kanto 5, we saw Dante motivate Ishmael and steer her on a better path. In Kanto 6, Dante lost control over Heathcliff, but eventually helped him through his grief and consoled him. In Kanto 7, we saw Dante struggle with trying to reach out to Sancho's broken dream and, with some help, eventually sparked the flames of passion within her yet again. But while with Sancho it was only a dream that she gave up on, what Dante has to handle isn't someone who's given up on anything, but who sees no meaning in even wanting. Honglu, who much like Yi Song in Kanto 4, wished for nothing more than death and understood that he was actually reaching out to help much like he is.
I mean, yeah, they're literally, was it in the Nocturnal chapter that just happened, the 0.5 chapter, for Honglu literally had said, they haven't brought it up in this video, but I'm pretty sure he said something along the lines of, I'm different from the other sinners that have gone through this already because I don't have something that I want. There's not a motivation there. So this isn't going to go the same way it went with the others. And wasn't Dante like, you sure about that? If I'm remembering that correctly, then y'all know what I'm talking about. And I'm just like, yeah, that's really concerning. Like, my guy really thinks that he's not going to suffer like the others did. Like, and then didn't Heathcliff get mad about that hearing? It was the conversation they were having inside that building, right? The fake building that would like melted away, and the one that Dante was almost got assassinated in, right? I think that's where that conversation took place. I believe, if the gears in my brain are working right now. Also, shout out to Frey. First time seeing the freaking content, but bro is cooking. Let me just say, bro is cooking with the freaking script. I must say, had me immersed like crazy, where I had nothing to freaking say. Like, I'm just feeling the emotions from this. Because, bro, I mean, the whole video's been really dark. Don't get me wrong. I mean, there's been little jokes here and there. But, yeah, the tone, like, especially towards the end of this video, the tone just really freaking... Woo, as we're taking a deep dive into the freaking brain and the mentality of honglu. Because one way or another, bro suffered in the past, and he is definitely going to suffer more. And, excuse me, we're going to truly see what makes bro tick. Because we know in the book now what makes him tick. But what in the game is going to make him tick? I want to see how close they go to the source material, which is like a never-ending amount of source material they have from his book, from what I've learned today in this video. So, let's continue.
Broken dream and, with some help, eventually sparked the flames of passion within her yet again. But while with Sancho, it was only a dream that she gave up on. What Dante has to handle isn't someone who's given up on anything, but who sees no meaning in even wanting. Honglu, who much like Yi Song in Canto 4, wished for nothing more than death and understood that he was actually reaching out to help much like he is. Honglu, who much like Ishmael had his entire life dictated and controlled by someone else with no agency of his own. And Honglu, who much like Heathcliff and Don Quixote, suffered through his own fair share of trauma caused by their family. And
bro has like a
look,
combination of the sinner's
we've already
trauma.
seen facades and dreams fall apart. Don Quixote's taken that mantle. But what do you do with someone who truly wants for nothing and lives life as a stone to be passed around as nothing? What is a more cruel act to inflict upon someone than to give those that never considered a life agency only to rip it away? Who could really bear that much pain? And more importantly, when will the person we know is honglu fall away? Canto 8, the surrendered witnessing, will not only be about which side wins and which one loses, but it will also be about his family, Dante, and the rest of the sinners witnessing the surrender of Honglu as his trademark smile finally shatters, and we'll be left asking if we even have the right to pick up the pieces.
It's what we've been waiting to see this entire time. Hey, round of applause, by the way. Great narrating there. Jesus. Let's continue, bro. Let's just wrap it up, right?
Before ending off, I want to end this video with a few words on my own.
Feel free to like and subscribe to Vader. Yep. And click off this video already. The rest of these minutes are dedicated to my feelings about the book, Project Moon, and a few plans for the channel. You'll be fitting abnormality predictions and fun facts here as you go through them all, because if you went over them in a video, it'd take another hour. Hey, I'm gonna let the rest of the video play.
Experience with
This is your video, bro. Cool.
I'll be showing information on screen as I go through the story so you don't get bored to death. I don't know, really. That's really for editing Vader to figure out what the heck he ends up doing with this section. But The Ream of the Red Chamber is probably the one book that I've read in my life that has left such a long and profound impression on me. And it's probably the most tragic and saddest book I've read in all my life. Not only because of the thematics that are present in the book and the nature of it all, but also because I ended up realizing that I actually relate a lot to Honglu. He's by far my favorite sinner out of the entire cast, and reading this book not only gave me a greater understanding of him as a character, but also life as a whole. Now, that isn't to say I've reached peak Buddhism and have let go of my earthly desires, but it did give me an understanding
marriage,
about how
you think
I
it's gonna
feel
show
about
up?
my own feelings regarding family abuse and depression. This will probably be its own video at some point when I reach over 100,000 subscribers and do a draw my life or something like that. But personally, I have suffered from depression for a large part of my life. Of course I'm over it, because frankly I wouldn't be here having the energy to make YouTube videos if I didn't. But the way Honglu's nihilism and depression was represented in the book genuinely made me sad for a week straight after finishing it. Most of my life I had similar worldviews to Honglu. Meaninglessly gazing away at passing trees or also not bust a skull, staying up at night and wondering what the meaning of my existence really had and what I meant to the people that are supposed to care about me. Wondering why I was born into the family I was. Well, I'm sure you can fill the blank there. This is all to say that I really hope that Project Moon can actually pull off the thematics of the book and convey the way I feel about it. Project Moon and their games are the reason I got out of my depression in the first place.
This one I'm gonna have to read out loud. Also, I'm glad that you're doing better, Vader. That's good to hear, my guy. That is good to hear. Star Luminary is likely the big battle pass, while ego that Sinclair and Honglu will receive. This is because of its thematics, with pebbles. Let me hide the camera so you can see what it looks like. And stars could fit into how Honglu perceives his jade as a useless pebble. It is a prize star to his family. Also, crackpot theory, but before the game, Project Moon teased Honglu by using the crystal ball emoji, and this guy happens to give a crystal ball. Coincidence? I think not. Shout out to the Incredibles.
With Library of Una, how that despite the horrible world that people live in and how easily they are willing to take advantage of one another, that there are still people who hold on to hope for their own reasons and make the best of what they can. And if Project Moon can replicate those exact same feelings in Canto 8, well, I'll love nothing more than that. I'll probably cry literal buckets of tears playing Canto 8 myself, and speaking of which,
they might
I
get
will
me.
actually be
I'm
sharing
not
that
gonna lie.
experience with my audience.
If
Right now, I'm still uncertain
it goes
about whether I
down
can
that
actually
path,
do it, but I'm planning.
then yeah. Honglu's dish and Hong Hong Pung Pung, weirdly enough, Hem Pung Pung is weirdly enough the double theming thing going on, consisting of both a Korean dish and a Chinese Mandarin roll. Oh. For example, Don Quixote's Spanish shrimp dish had garlic in it, which is very ironic considering vampire, blood fiend. That's funny. Yeah, that was on purpose. Huh. Interesting looking meal.
To hopefully afford a new PC by the time Canto 8 comes around, so that I can stream. I want to stream my experiences playing through Canto 8, and probably cry like a literal baby in front of everyone if it happens to be anything like I predict it will be. But let's be
Hopefully
real,
it is,
the chances are probably slim anyways. So if you really want to see that at some point, please do consider liking or subscribing, or perhaps even becoming a channel membership if you want to monetarily fuel my upcoming depression. Anyway, that's all for me. It's up to editing Wellvader to figure out how the hell he's going to fit this entire script in the span of weeks. And if you enjoyed this video, consider checking out the other long form videos I've made so far. My healing tier list is really a recommendation to watch. Anyway, that's all for me. Take care, and I hope that this video can make you appreciate playing through Canto 8.
Definitely does. And with that, we give the round of applause, boys. Give the round of applause. They cooked. Y'all cooked with this video crazy. There are so many different thoughts that I could give on this freaking video. We've already been here an hour and 10 minutes, so I won't be here too long with this. But basically what I got is Honglu's family sucks. His life sucks. The people he cares about either die or just disappear. His own family freaking turns on him in multiple different ways, whether they're trying to get rid of him internally. They're trying to freaking gaslight him into a marriage to try to fix the luck in their own freaking family bloodline because they're all freaking cursed. So much going on. Bro does not see a purpose in life. I don't even blame him, bro. At that point, I'm not seeing a freaking purpose. Like, feeling like everything is meaningless. Because, yeesh, dude. And I've been saying for the longest, I want to see, like, with Honglu, I'm like, I want to see what makes bro ticks. Because these comments that he makes, these freaking weird comments that he makes about his family, or trying to act like he doesn't care about something, or just brushing it off, acting like something traumatic is normal. I'm like, no. You know it's not normal. And we're going to get to the bottom of it. We are going to get to the freaking bottom of it. And that moment in Canto 8 when we finally see this dude break, when that smile is gone and you see the emotion pour out of this dude, it's probably going to be one of the most, like, meaningful historic moments in this game, like, in general. I'm going to be honest, it's truly going to be a moment in time for this game, and I'm looking forward to it. It's weird to say that you're looking forward to seeing a character go through, like, some bad things, but we've been waiting. We've been waiting to see this other side of freaking Honglu, dude. So this was cool. I'm really happy that I checked out this video. I'm excited for Canto 8 when stuff starts dropping for it, you know, the trailers and all that. We'll check it out. An insanely freaking good video. Shout out to Wellvader for even reading the freaking book, bro. Good lord. Leave a like on the video, subscribe to them if you haven't already. Become a member you know, support them. It's not easy to make videos like this. You know, this video was over a year in the freaking making. Check out some of their other stuff. Check out Frey's channel also, subscribe to them. Yeah. That's I could yap for longer, but it is already like midnight over here. So shout out to honglu. We're gonna see what's gonna happen with you, my guy. We are gonna see what's gonna happen with you. And it's gonna be wild. So yeah. I think from like a intrigued freaking standpoint, I'd say honglu and freaking Mirasol intrigue me the most, even though Ryoshu's one of my freaking favorite characters, dude. And I want to see what happens with her. I would say Mirasol and honglu. I really want to see what the hell happens in their cantos, dude. You know, those characters that you can't get a good freaking read on like that. I'd love to get into their brains and see their story. So yeah, hopefully Welvader does this with Canto 9. I forget who's next after that. I don't remember, but somebody in the comment section will definitely tell me. But yeah, appreciate you guys for watching. Subscribe over here if you enjoyed the reaction. You know, we do Limbus Company, we do many other gacha games also in the rotation. If you want to join the Discord server for us, description box below of this video. Completely free to join. Give yourself the Limbus Company role, and you're good to go. But yeah, this felt like I'm actually super happy watching this. Like, I know the tone of it got super dark, but it was satisfying watching something like this. Like, it felt like it was meaningful information, you know? So if you guys want to see me check out more stuff like this in the future, recommend me some channels, some videos, and we'll check them out for sure. So yeah, until the next one, I appreciate you very much for watching. Love y'all, stay safe, and as I always do say, don't do crack.
Be sure to subscribe to the Special K Experience if you enjoyed this video. If not, you're going to Femboy IHOP.